Ciao a tutti, it's Oriom, and we are finally in the next part of the Staple series. Today we're going to be talking about spells. Subscribe to the channel and let's go. So, George, I've already talked about this card at length in one of my previous videos, so check that one out. It's the one with Soul Charge Maxi and Breakthrough Skill in the thumbnail. Anyways, moving on to more, or moving more on to things that I haven't talked about yet. We have our two most generic consistency cards in the format, Pot of Duality and Upstart Goblin. Duality is not as generic, but it's a pretty much 3-off staple in the best deck Cat and also Het, and also most Artifact Trap Tricks builds. It's also a solid option in decks like Spellbooks, where it's often a 2-off. There's decks like well, it's also 3-off staple in Bujins. And in decks like Georgias and Madolches, it's also an option. In Georgias, like you can consider playing one copy because it's very strong turn 1, but it's pretty very weak after that. In Madolches, kind of the same thing, but there's more turns where you don't really do much, so it's a lot more of an option in Madolches than in, you know, Geargas. Besides that, for the rest of the meta decks, don't. Well, Fire Fist runs it for Axis Fire Fist. It's technically an option in Kokimeru and Worms, but I personally will not run them. It's also kind of an option in Cyber Dragons. Because you don't special summon all the turns, so it's definitely solid there. And yeah. Meanwhile, Upstart Goblin has kind of been replaced by Maxi by most people. However, being able to play both of them in a deck is orgasmic. There's another way to put it. It's so awesome to play Upstart and Maxi in the same deck. And yeah, honestly, like most control decks, there's a take going around right now that control decks should just play 3 Upstarts because you're already taking a bit of time to kill the opponent. Might as well get more consistency of it. Upstarts 1000 life point is a real downside in this format because it gives the opponent more soul charge fuel, so it's not just more time that you need to kill them. And yeah, the fact that Maxi exists is a bit of an issue for Upstart, but like Mermels can run this, but they usually are already struggling to get to 40 cards, so not really. They don't usually do it. Georgia hands don't usually have the space, but it's pretty common in pure Georgias, and I am running it in Georgia Karakuri, and I'm liking it. Cat doesn't have the space for it. Then pretty much all combo decks run 3 copies of Upstart. Sylvans, Mythic Rulers, Infernities, doesn't matter, you just run 3 Upstarts. In Infernities, honestly, more often than not, you just set the card. You don't even use it. But it's just very good to have the option. Besides that, yeah, you can run it in kinda any deck if you want to, decks in. However, it's not really at its top spot right now. It has seen a lot more play before. Then we have Instant Fusion. Probably the best generic extender. Even if it does take up a slot in the extra deck, it doesn't have the drawbacks that an Ethereum has. It's often run in decks that like to have both an option for a level 4 and a level 3, and sometimes a level 5 extender. So, Madolches, it's really solid there. Infinity is really solid there. I like it in Warm Artifact Trap Tricks because like you can get a level 5, so you get play this. You can make Ojama Knight with it. You can get a level 4, so you start with Jagan plus King of the Feral Imps, or Jagan plus Giant Hand, or Dweller. And it also works with Myrmilio, so yeah, it works really well with worms. I really like it in Fairfists because you can get Cherubin off of it, and if you've seen my Fairfists 3.5 axis tech profile, you'll know how strong Tanky Plus Instant Fusion is. Yeah, pretty much Instant Fusion is great if you need an extender that can be multiple levels, or if you just need a lot of extenders, even if it's just one single level. It can also bring out a Dark or a Wind, which is really relevant for Master Key Beetle, Lightning Chidori. If you don't have any synergy with one particular target, if you need a level 4, I would recommend using Marvelous, because it's also Winged Beast, so you can pop it with Damandar Wolf. So even if you don't run Damandar Wolf, the opponent doesn't know, so might as well make them consider the possibility. Yeah. Going into quick plays, we have MST. This is pretty much a very, very strong card, either in the side deck or in the main deck, depends on the deck, but usually it's more of a side card. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Pretty much, you have to be very skillful about playing Mystical Space Typhoon in this format, more than in any other format. Because like, let's just look at the top 3 or 4 decks. We have like versus Cat, you cannot just blind MST immediately. You have to make them use the artifacts. Then once they do, they probably don't have any other artifacts set. Probably they might still have a moral attack if they opened like Ignition plus moral attack. But if that's the case, you know where the moral attack is. Just becomes an issue if they have a second moral attack. But yeah, most of the time, blind MSTing is good after they use artifacts. You can snipe a trap hole or a compulse or whatever. But since that takes a bit of time, it's not like the best thing about thing versus Cat. What's better to do versus Cat is it's great versus Cat if you go first, because like you blind MST. Yeah, they have 6 backrows that still do something, but they're not as devastating as blind hitting a moral attack, and it's worth hitting, trying to hit bottomless. And even if you hit the cards that you wouldn't want to, Ignition and Sanctum, it's generally still better than just letting them resolve. Often, not always, but depends. Versus Gilgaz, you don't really want to blind MST when going second, because you are likely to hit a Gear, and you might not be able to deal with it. If you are able to deal with it, good, and you can go for it, but if not, just be wary of that, and also keep in mind they do play 3 copies of Finish Chain, and they do side the Soul Drain macro Diffusure, so yeah, definitely keep that in mind. And versus Mermels, always, this is one of the most important advice you will hear about playing in this format. Always keep MST in hand when playing versus Mermels. So you go end of main phase or end of main phase do. If they use Abyss Sphere, you have it in hand, pop the Abyss Sphere. If you go first, I'm not talking if you go first. Well, if you go first, it's still an option, depends on how much you fear Marksman. If you would rather them hit MST than another one of your back rows, then sure, set MST, but otherwise, like, it's best to be kept in hand to use it on Abyss Sphere, because Abyss Sphere is the most powerful card in Memorials, so yeah. Even versus like Mythic Rulers, you want to hit the skill drain, so you always have to keep that in mind when you have MST in hand versus Dragon Rulers, Mystic Rulers. Any deck that plays Skill Drain. Besides that, versus spellbooks, if they search Fate and set one blind MST, that one it's probably Fate. Besides that, I don't know, maybe hitting the tower might be... Nah. I don't have too much experience using MST versus spellbooks. Usually I just blind MST, they're 2 or 3 set cards, pray it's Fate, and if it's not, I lose. But usually I'm pretty desperate. What else? Versus Malolches, keep it for a ticket. Maybe the castle if need be, but their continuous cards are really strong, so hit with MST. Versus any kind of Firefist deck, keep in mind they have tanky, so any kind of Beast Warrior deck, so Bujins, Constellars, Firefists, Kokimerus, keep in mind they have that. But keep in mind they also often play Fiendish Chains, those kinds of decks, and Call of the Hunted in case of Constellars, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah, I think I've said enough about MST. Honestly, more than should be said considering that it's more of a side card for most decks. It's main decked mainly... no, it's often main decked in Girgias. Pure Girgias, pretty staple there. But besides that, none of the other like tier 1 or tier 1.5 really main deck the card. So besides Cat, sometimes if you want more back row hit in the main deck, you just play MSTs on top of your 3 Ignitions and 2 Double Cyclones. Yeah, besides that, I decided definitely a side deck staple in Mermels because of Soul Drain macro Diffusher. So I will consider a side deck staple in Cat because like if you need more back row hit, this is the best card in Cat because you want more cards that pop your back row, so you don't generally want to run Wiretap. Yeah, I think I've said enough. Forbidden Lance is kind of an interesting card in the format because it deals with most back rows except Solemn Warning and most importantly Artifacts. But what does deal with the artifacts is Chalice. Chalice deals mostly with artifacts. Play these Felgrand when you're going second, which is it's also good going first as just a finish / breakthrough skill, but weaker. But like Lance is great in combo decks mainly. Mostly in the main deck. It's also great in Firefists, but those are kind of the main decks that play Lance. Chalice is an interesting card in the format. It's mainly a side deck card for decks that play enough during their first turn to care about to be able to get rid of artifacts or let me rephrase that. If they it's a deck, it's great in decks that if they artifact you, your turn ends. But they will be able to get stuff done if the artifacts were taken care of. So decks like Bujins, Constellars, mid-range decks, Malolches, mid-range decks. In my opinion, Chalice is a great sidecard for those decks for going second versus artifacts mainly, and also boss monsters like Plays and Felgrand. Yeah. They also have a niche in like the Kree decks, like Boxers. Then we have Fire Formation Tanky. Kind of self-explanatory. Staple in Bujins, Constellars, Firefists, Kokimerus, Gladiator Beasts, I think, maybe. Any Beast Warrior decks plays 3 copies of Tanky. That's about it. Really? Windups. Same deal with Rota. Any deck that plays Warriors plays Rota, so Infernity, Constellars. Constellars come up a lot. Yeah, Chaos Sworns, Light Sworns. I also forgot about Tenki. It being continuous is great in Constellars and Fire Fist Artifact Traptrix decks. Because and also wind up artifacts because you can make play this, bounce back the Tenki, and something else backups. Yep. And then for other limited staples, we have Dark Hole. Just very, very solid card. Pretty much staple in Cat and Girgias. Obviously, you wouldn't run it in a control deck, in a combo deck, but yeah. If your deck doesn't have a lot of board presence, especially early on, you definitely want to main it, and if you don't main it, you almost definitely want to side it if it's like a mid-range deck. So yeah. If it's a combo deck, probably not. Then we have Mind Control, which is more of a side card, really. It's extremely strong versus Girgias, and it's downright broken in Girgia Mirrors. It's like an auto-win card in the Girgia Mirror. But yeah, pretty much just if you are playing versus a deck that has the levels you want, just play it. Especially strong in a mirror match. Strong versus Cat because they often just normal summon Mermilio, but it's very strong versus Hat. It's good versus Cat, but not that good. It's mainly good if you also have level 5s of your own. It's amazing versus Girgias because it gets rid of their armor. Yep. So if you play a level 4 deck, you definitely want to side deck Mind Control. At least for just the Girgias. It's so fucking good versus Girgias, holy shit. And then we also have Foolish Burial, running decks that want to send stuff to the graveyard. Who knew? Wow, really insightful commentary. Mythic Rulers, Ruler decks, Lightstorm decks, graveyard deck, I don't have to explain to you where you run Foolish Burial. It's pretty self-evident when you are building the deck whether you would want to run Foolish Burial or not. Next we have one of my favorite cards in the format, Rank Up Magic Numeron Force. I think the first time that kinda got in the spotlight was when I think Poison topped with this card in Hunters. Maybe someone else in Exit on Elimination 3. You can double check. Yeah, pretty much this card is very strong in those rogue mid-range rank 4 with follow-up decks. So Hunters, Heraldics, Gadgets, those kinds of decks. Those like kind of cookie cutter. Hunter is not really cookie cutter, but like Heraldics and Gadgets are pretty much the same exact deck. Rank 4 decks with follow-up. You play Numeron Force, Rank Up Magic, whatever. You summon C101, C80, or C104 mainly. C101 is a beast of a monster. It's 2800, sucks up stuff, floats, so they gotta get rid of it twice during their turn, and it's kinda hard. And they gotta get rid of it twice in a very short time span. C80, banish 3 cards, then equip and to something and gives it 2000. Can be good. And C104, it's just a beast. Like, negates a monster effect, then halves the opponent's life points. Probably something else. But yeah, that card needs 3 level 4s to make number 104, and then Numeron. So it's not for all decks, it's mainly just for gadgets, but yeah, very strong in those rank 4 cookie cutter follow-up mid-range rogue decks. Whatever you want to call them. Then I only have one copy, should get more. Nobleman of Extermination, interesting card in the format. It's pretty good when going blind second. When going second versus Cat, it's strong. It's strong if it hits artifacts, whatever artifact card it hits. I think they need to go to the graveyard. Not entirely sure, but whatever. Either way, it's very strong if you hit an artifact monster. I don't have to check that. Then very, very strong versus breakthrough skill. Because that can be an issue for some decks, like I don't know, protect the castle decks, like boxers or evil souls. Those weird decks. Certainly an interesting option. Then we have trading for decks with level 8. Who knew? Wow. Mythic rulers run 3. Sylvans sometimes run it. Kind of depends on your build. Dark World with Malefic Stardust Dragon can run trading. Decks that run level 8s. Pretty self-explanatory. Then Jar of Dichotomy. This card is it's an option in Hat, and it's an option in Merle, and it's a very strong card in Ghost Trick Spirits. And I'd say that's pretty much it for the card, really. Which, to be honest, is more than this card could ever wish for, considering it has the same. It really conflicts with Soul Charge, because it takes away your graveyard and then also removes your battle phase. So when you're competing with Soul Charge in the format, you're not bound to end well. Then terraforming for mainly Sylvans. There are some weird decks like Dragoonities that like to run it. Nothing really important. Dark Worlds can run it, I guess. More important stuff. Nobleman of Crossout. This card is one of the best side deck cards in the format because of Kyrgyz. It's the best out to Kyrgyz armor. They can just not set the card, but if they do, it's they're still in a bad spot, because they usually do that if they know you can't really run over their armor. So kind of depends on the deck. But doesn't stop acid triple, I think. Does it? I don't remember. But no, side this card if you are scared of the Gilgia matchup. Not in Mermels, because in Mermels the set armor is not the issue. But if you have trouble dealing with set armor, or you just want to deal with it efficiently, just play Nobleman across it in the side deck alongside Mind Control. Then we have XYZ Anchor. This is a kind of a side deck staple for decks that fear Evil Swarms. So stuff like Cat, Mythic Rulers, Sylvans, it's definitely an option in those decks, side decks. Not a staple, but Kaiser Colosseum, good in Blue Jeans, Boxers, and Noble Knights, Ninjas, Protect the Castle, Cancer kind decks. You just play Kaiser in those. And for a couple of cards, Book of Moon. This card is pretty bad in the format. It's good in spellbooks. It's a staple in spellbooks, and that's pretty much it. It's an option in Geargias and Geargia Karakuris, but not a very good one, in my opinion. Especially in Geargias. It's a bit more of an option in Geargia Karakuris, but not that much. Besides that, I wouldn't really run it in anything really. Kind of just bad. Then Rekindling. It's good in Lavals. You can run it in Fire Fists. Whatever. It's not even a staple in either of those decks, honestly. It's kind of funny with Lavals, because you will think it's a staple, but because it's at 1, you don't You don't always want to play the level 4 that's a non-tuner that's a target. Without that card, this card doesn't do anything by itself because you're just reviving tuners. You need a non-tuner, so keep that in mind. And then last card we are going to be talking about is Diffuser, which really it's more like a trap, doesn't really need to be discussed here, but you know, it's Diffuser. You said it if your deck doesn't mind graveyard hate. For decks that really do mind graveyard hate, like Mythic Rulers and Sylvans. Yeah, Mythic Rulers is kind of weird, but like versus Sylvans and Mermals, mainly Mermals. Yeah, very, very strong side card for those decks. Yeah, that's it from me. It's been a while. My throat is hurting. So yeah, I would appreciate if you left a like, join the Discord, and subscribed. And yeah, that's it from me. Goodbye.